Most people who feel this don't say it out loud because there's something specifically embarrassing about being lonely when your phone is full of people. When your posts get comments, when your inbox has unread messages in it saying, "I have no one to call," when you have 800 followers or 400 or 2,000, it doesn't matter, feels like a confession that something is wrong with you. Not with the situation. With you. So most people don't say it. They just carry it. The specific weight of a social life that looks completely fine from the outside and feels completely hollow from the inside. That is what this video is about, not loneliness as a general concept. This specific shape of it, the one that comes with a full inbox and an empty evening, and by the end of it you are going to understand exactly why this happened, why it is not what you think it means, and why the shame you've been attaching to it belongs somewhere else entirely. There's a word for what you've been experiencing. And it is not loneliness in the ordinary sense. Ordinary loneliness is the absence of people. What you have is something different. You have people. Technically, you have contact, you have response, you have an audience that registers your existence and signals it back to you regularly. What you don't have is anyone you could call right now if something happened. Not someone you'd feel comfortable calling. Not someone who would pick up and already know enough about your actual life that you wouldn't have to start from the beginning. Researchers who study adult relationships have started distinguishing between two kinds of social connection that the digital era has collapsed into one word. The first is what they call ambient connection, the experience of being known, seen, responded to, part of something. The second is reciprocal intimacy, the experience of being in a real relationship with a specific person who knows you over time, in context, without performance. For most of human history, those two things traveled together. If you were ambient, known in your community, visible to people around you, you were also almost automatically in real relationships. But the last 20 years pulled them apart. And the specific pain of having 800 followers and no one to call is what that separation feels like from the inside. You are not imagining it. The gap is real. It has a shape. And the shape is not you. But there's a layer underneath the loneliness that almost no one talks about. It's the feeling that goes with performing a connected life while privately experiencing a disconnected one. The feeling that the person online, the one with the comments, the followers, the visible social activity, is somehow not the real person. And that the real person is the one sitting alone on a Tuesday night wondering why none of it has translated into anyone actually knowing them. That feeling has a name too. And understanding it is the part of this that is actually going to change something. To understand why this happened, you have to go back about 20 years and look at what actually changed. In 2003, if you wanted social contact, you had to be physically near people. The architecture of a normal life, school, work, a neighborhood, a local bar, a church, a team, put you in proximity to human beings whether you chose it or not. You didn't build a social life. The social life was a byproduct of being alive in a physical world. Then the infrastructure moved. Not all at once, gradually, and with everyone assuring you that the new version was better, more connected, more efficient, more expansive. Facebook in 2006 didn't feel like a replacement for your social life. It felt like an addition to it, a way to stay in touch with the people you already had. But something happened over the following decade that no one announced. The addition became the primary. The digital layer, which was supposed to supplement real relationships, started substituting for them. Remote work accelerated it. Smartphones made it so that the ambient sensation of social contact, the feeling of being liked, responded to, seen, was available at any moment, from anywhere, without requiring you to be physically present with another human being. And the platforms were designed deliberately, with significant resources, to be extraordinarily good at delivering that ambient sensation. The like button, the comment, the follower count. These are not accidents of design. They are precision instruments for delivering the neurological signal of social connection without requiring the conditions that produce it. Not closeness. The feeling of closeness. And here's the critical thing. The thing that explains the specific pain of your situation. The signal is real. When a post gets 200 likes, something genuine happens in your nervous system. You were seen, you were registered, people responded. That is not nothing. But it is also not the same thing as a person who knows you. And after years of primarily receiving the signal without the underlying relationship, the nervous system learns to confuse them. Not because you are confused, because the infrastructure was built to produce exactly that confusion. You did not choose isolation. You used the available infrastructure the way everyone around you was using it, and the infrastructure was optimized for engagement, not for closeness. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in this conversation. Now we can talk about the fraud feeling, because that's the part that actually hurts the most, and it's the part that almost never gets named. The fraud feeling goes something like this. There is a version of you that exists online. That version is curated, not dishonestly, not maliciously, but edited. The best angle. The considered response. The version of a thought that was given enough time to become coherent before it went out. That version has an audience. People respond to that version. They comment on it. Some of them have followed it for years. And then there is the other version. The one sitting in an apartment on a Wednesday night, with nothing to do and no one to call. The one who wouldn't know how to start a real conversation with most of the people who follow them online. The one who sometimes looks at their own follower count and feels something close to contempt, because the number is supposed to mean something social, and it doesn't mean that at all. If you felt that, what you are feeling is not evidence of bad character. It is the natural psychological response to living inside a structural contradiction for long enough. Here is the contradiction. You were handed a system that rewards performance, not presence. Performance, not depth. Frequency, not closeness. Visibility. And you, like everyone around you, learned to use that system because it was the system available. You got good at it, maybe very good at it. And the better you got at performing connection, the wider the gap became between the performance and the actual experience of being known. That gap is what the fraud feeling is. It is not evidence that you are a fraud. It is evidence that you are a person who adapted to a broken infrastructure. There is a specific cruelty in the design of this, because the more isolated you actually were, the more the platforms offered you the sensation of not being isolated. The more the real relationships atrophied, the more the follower count grew. The more the evenings emptied out, the fuller the inbox got. And at some point, maybe gradually, maybe in a single moment that you remember, you realized the two things were moving in opposite directions, and you didn't know what to do with that. The Surgeon General's 2023 advisory on loneliness named something specific, that Americans are spending more time than ever in mediated social environments, while simultaneously reporting less close friendship than at any point in recorded data. More connected, more alone. Those two things are not a paradox. They are a predictable outcome of an infrastructure that was built to maximize one at the direct expense of the other. The failure here is architectural, not personal. You did not fail connection. You were handed a system that was engineered for engagement and handed you the sensation of closeness as a substitute for the real thing. That is not your verdict. That is your context. If what this video opened lands hardest on evenings like tonight, and for a lot of people watching this, it does, there's a resource in the description built specifically for that. It's called the Sunday Night Survival Guide. It addresses exactly what happens in your brain and body when the contradiction becomes undeniable, when the day is ended and the apartment is quiet, and the follower count means nothing. And it gives you 3 concrete things to move through it with, not around it. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Understanding this doesn't fix it overnight. That's worth saying directly, because this channel is not going to be the one that tells you inside alone is transformation. It isn't. But understanding it does change something real, because right now, a significant portion of the energy you're spending on this pain is going toward explaining it to yourself as a personal deficiency. There is something about me. I am not someone people want to be close to. The online version is the only real version. Every one of those explanations is structurally incorrect. Not because everything is fine. It's not fine. And you know that. But because the explanation that fits the actual evidence is not about your character. It is about the environment your social life was built inside. Here's what that actually changes. When you believe the problem is you, the only available action is to try to become someone different, to be more charming, more interesting, more disciplined about putting yourself out there. And that framing has probably already failed you, not because you didn't try, but because it was solving for the wrong thing. When you understand the problem is structural, when you can see that the infrastructure you've been living inside was optimized for engagement and not for closeness, a different set of questions becomes possible. Not what is wrong with me, but what does closeness actually require? And does my current environment provide it? Not why can't I make friends, but what conditions would I need to be in regularly enough for something real to grow? Those are not the same questions, and they do not have the same answers. The research on adult friendship is consistent on one point that most advice skips entirely. Real friendship doesn't emerge from effort alone. It emerges from proximity, repetition, and unplanned interaction over time. You have to be near the same people, repeatedly, in conditions that don't require you to perform. That's not a tip. That's the mechanism. And understanding the mechanism means you can stop trying to force outcomes in single encounters. The awkward event, the strained conversation with a stranger, and start asking a different question entirely. What would it look like to be near the same people, regularly, in a low-stakes environment, over enough time for something real to develop? You probably already know at least one possible answer to that question. You don't need a plan. You don't need confidence you don't have yet. You just need to stay with the question long enough to let an honest answer surface. That's not everything, but it is the right beginning. If tonight is one of those evenings where the contradiction is sitting heavier than usual, the Sunday Night Survival Guide in the description was made for exactly this. It's the gap closer between understanding what's happening and having something concrete to do with it. Link is in the description and in the pinned comment. When did you first notice the gap? The moment the follower count stopped feeling like it meant anything social. There's something worth sitting with before this ends. The version of you that existed before all of this, before the social infrastructure moved online, before the follower count became the available metric for a social life, that person didn't have to think about this. They were in proximity to people, real, physical, recurring proximity. They made friends without a strategy because the architecture of their life produced the conditions for friendship without requiring one. That person is not a former version of you. They are not evidence of who you used to be and can no longer be. They are evidence of what becomes possible when the infrastructure supports it. The capacity for real closeness, for being in a room with another person without monitoring the performance, for letting yourself be known without editorial control, that capacity was not taken from you. It was overlaid by an environment that rewarded something else, by years of practicing a different kind of social presence, by the entirely reasonable adaptation of a person trying to maintain a social life inside a system that was not built for one. Adaptations are reversible, not quickly, and not without the specific discomfort of doing something that feels unfamiliar after years of doing something else. But the muscle is still there. Atrophy is not the same as absence. What having 800 followers and no one to call actually means is this. You have been living inside an infrastructure that was precision engineered to deliver the sensation of connection without the conditions that produce it. And you used it the way everyone around you used it. Because it was there. Because it worked in the limited way it was designed to work. And because no one told you clearly and directly what it was actually optimized for and what it was quietly trading away. You know that now. Not your fault. And also not your sentence. The path back to something real is not the one you were handed. But it exists. And you are already further along it than you were 20 minutes ago.